Okay, so today we're going to be doing simplifying radicals, and we're going to be doing what I call the prison break method and perfect squares method. So generally we know that if I have something like 2 squared, that's going to be 4. Same thing if I took the square root of 4, I know that's going to be x squared, and that x is going to be equal to 2. Those ones are pretty easy, but what we're going to be doing is ones that maybe we can't look at it and see right away, or maybe that they don't even have perfect squares like this. So I'm going to start off with the prison break method. And yes, it is what it sounds like. So let's, for example, say I'm going to take the square root of 28. And notice that 28 is an even number, which means that it's divisible by 2. And in the prison break method, you can't break prison without a partner. So what we're going to try finding out is what actually goes into 28 that has in partners. And we're going to start off by dividing the whole thing by 2. It's the easiest one. We can do it in our heads for the most part. If not, grab a calculator, okay? So I'm going to take 28, and I'm going to divide that by 2. Now 28 divided by 2 is 14. My question for you is, can 14 be divided by 2? Or does 2 go into 14? Well, again, it's an even number, which means it is still divisible by 2. So again, I'm going to take the whole thing, I'm going to divide it by 2, and I'm left with 7. And 7 is a prime number. And we got to remember, a prime number means that it can only be multiplied by itself and 1. So that's all as far as I can go. But when we're looking at this, and like I said, the prison break method, I need 2 pairs. And, well, if you take a look, I actually have a pair of 2s right here. Oh, that's supposed to be pink. Oh well. Boop, boop. There we go. Okay. And because of this, what I end up with is these guys get escape prison together, so I'm left with 2, and prime 7 has to stay in prison. So I'm stuck with 2 square root 7. Not too bad, right? Just dividing by 2 over and over and over. So let's try doing one that maybe isn't as easy to see. Let's take the square root of 63. And as we can see, it's an odd number, which means it isn't divisible by 2. So let's try the next number. Let's see if 3 can go into 63. So take a moment, plug it into your calculators. Okay. So if I take 63 and I want to divide it by 3, I find out that 3 can go into 63 21 times. And again, we're left with another odd number. So let's just take 21. Since we're already divided by 3, let's see if we can divide 21 by 3. So we're divided by 3, and that leaves me with 7. And again, this is the prison break method, and we all need a partner to escape prison with. Now I can see we have a pair of 3s, and 7 is a prime number. So he has to stay back, and these ones get to go home. So we get 3 square root 7. Done. But let's say that we're given a bigger number, or maybe something that we have to divide by the cube root. And don't forget, if we're doing something of the cube root, come on. Okay, if we're doing something by the cube root, that's me asking x to the third and trying to find out what that is going to be. In this case, I'm going to use 32 as an example. 32, 32. So we're trying to find out what x to the third is going to be in order to make it equal to 32. For this method, we know that 32 is an even number, right? It's even. So I'm going to start dividing it by 2. So I have 32, and I'm going to divide it by 2. That's going to give me 16. And again, 16 is also an even number. So I'm going to divide that, again, by 2, which leaves me with 8. And 8 is still an even number, and I know that I can divide 8 by 2 and 4. The big difference with this is that we're looking for a cube, or instead of pairs of 2, like we did with squares, we're seeing if we can find any triples. So we got the 3 amigos right here, and because of that, I get 2 with this cube root of 4, and that's my answer. But there's also a little bit of a faster method that, in case you're better with your numbers, you might want to look at instead. So what we call is the perfect squares method. And in the perfect squares method, I'm actually seeing, well, what squared numbers goes into this. So we know that 2 squared is equal to 4, 3 squared is equal to 9, 4 squared is equal to 16, 5 squared is equal to 25, and so on and so forth. So, let's just try finding the square root of 28. We already know the answer here, but let's just try double checking it with this method as well. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look, does 4, 9, 16, 25, do any of these multiply to 28? And I know that if I take the square root, and if I do 4 times 7, what's 4 times 7? 4 times 7 is actually 28. And I can split these apart to be the square root of 4 times the square root of 7. The square root of 4 is just going to be, well, 2. So I'm left with 2 times square root 7, or as we've written before, 2 square root 7. Not too bad, right? Just find out which one of these multiply into your larger number that you're trying to square root, and then go on from there. Let's double check this method now with trying to find the square root of 63. So, looking back up here, I'm trying to see, does 4, 9, 16, or 25 go into 63? And I know that 9 times 7 is 63, so I'm going to take the square root of that. I can break these apart, and that's just going to become square root 9 times square root 7. Looking up at our list, 3 squared is equal to 9. So because of that, this is going to give me 3 times the square root of 7, or just 3 square root 7. And again, we get the same answers from both sides. But let's take a look at cube rooting with numbers. And we're just going to double check it again. So I'm going to take the cube root of 32. So I'm going to write a list of just a couple of the cube roots that I know personally. So I know that 2 cubed is going to be 8, and you can double check it on your calculator if you need. 3 cubed is 27. 4 cubed is 64, and so on and so forth. But I'm just going to try looking at these three to see if anything goes into 32. And from looking at this list, I know that 8 times a certain number goes into 32. Well, that's just going to be 8 times 4. So when I'm doing this, I can now separate it, and remember it's cubed. So we have the cube root of 8 times the cube root of 4. And the cube root of 8 is just, well, 2. So I get 2 times the cube root of 4. And again, that's my answer. When you finish taking these notes, there's going to be 10 questions for your homework, and it's all multiple choice, so no worries, just go through it. You're going to only have about 3 attempts to take it, so just be careful, but get the practice, okay?